Hi everybody, and welcome to Building a Basic Data Loading Web App from Scratch with Aptana Studio. If you were in my Spring 2012 Data Journalism and Information Visualization class, then you may remember this tutorial as a long and vaguely confusing PDF. I remember it as my entire Friday night and Saturday morning. And so I'm taking the opportunity to create the video version, which I think will be a lot more helpful based on later feedback throughout the semester. So if you weren't in my class, just a few notes before we get started. We will be using, the program that we'll be using for this tutorial is called Aptana Studio. We'll be using Aptana Studio 3, which is the current version as of this date. And you can download it. It's free and cross-platform, and you can download it by Googling Aptana Studio. And we will be using, version 3. I chose Aptana Studio because it's free and cross-platform, and also because it supports all of the file types that we need for this project, which are the following. We will be creating one HTML file, which will give us the structure for our web page. It's obviously also the, maybe not obviously, it is also the document that we will open in our browser, and which will sort of constitute the obvious part of our, or the user-facing part of our web app. We will be creating a CSS file, a cascading style sheets file, which will provide the placement and styling for that HTML page. We'll be creating a JavaScript file, and we'll be using, in that, we'll be using a JavaScript framework called jQuery, which is going to provide us with the interactivity for our web app. And we'll be using a JSON file, a JSON data file, which will contain the content for our web app. If you're not familiar with these terms and sort of how they're used in the web, I suggest that you search around this site or the the Data Journalism and Information Visualization site as a way to get a little bit familiar with what these things are. At some point, I may also be making additional videos describing these technologies. But this will make a lot more sense if you sort of have an idea what those things are. Finally, I'm going to suggest that to preview this particular tutorial, you use Firefox. In future tutorials, we'll rely on Chrome because it has great dev tools that let us see what's going on behind the scenes with our web app. But in this case, if you use Firefox, if you preview with Firefox, it allows you to see some of the data loading components without having to upload all of your files to a web server, which is kind of an intermediate step that if you're really new to this stuff, you may not be familiar with. And just to give you a quick look at what the final product will be, this is a sample file set, and we're going to get a page that looks like this. So you can see in the title bar, it says Susan's web app. Obviously, I've customized that, and I'm getting these little pop-ups that say things like, hey, I'm ready to go, and New York Daily News feed, and this not very impressive looking page that has some content in it, and which I happen to know that if I click on this, I'll get this message that says clicked box A. So not very exciting at the outset, but we are creating the building blocks for a much more sophisticated application, which if you continue through all of these tutorials, you'll have a pretty good tool set for making some good, interactive web apps. So that's all for now. If you'd like to move on to the next tutorial, please feel free. See you soon.